Chapter 3. 2 months later. "Are you sure now is the time, sir? The economy is just starting to recover after the rapture. This could throw it into chaos again." Samael bowed his head to avoid looking Damon directly in the eyes. It was not in his nature to question his lord, but the timing did not seem appropriate to him. "Chaos is exactly what we need, Samael." Damon rose from his throne and paced the dark room. "After the rapture, the churches were empty. The people blamed each other. We were this close to an all-out war." He held his long, pale fingers less than an inch apart. "But now they are beginning to fill again," he said with disdain. "People, these hapless creatures God created, are searching for meaning again. We must shut that down, turn them back to things of the flesh. If we can strike fear into them again, they will be desperate for a savior." "A savior like you, sir?" Samael lifted his face slightly, now that it seemed Damon was not angry. A sinister smile pulled at Damon's lips. "Indeed, a savior like me. Once we infect the world with this virus, we can sow dissent, fear, hate, get the people in power to spread the fear and keep the people locked inside. Then I can emerge with a cure that will end the misery." He spread his arms wide. "They will trip over themselves in the race to save themselves, to return to normal. They will clamor to appoint me ruler over all. By the time we are done with them, few will pause long enough to consult scriptures that have mostly been forgotten anyway." Samael swallowed audibly. "But what of those who do, sir? What will we do about them, if the virus does not take them?" Damon's dark eyes twinkled as he steepled his hands together. "Don't you worry. I have plans for any who may resist our cause. They will be examples, useful if they do emerge. Now, do we have a patient?" Samael nodded. "We do." He crossed to a door that lay nearly hidden in the room. Only a slight line indicated that the wall was disturbed. With a deft touch, he opened the door and rolled the man out. The man, having been tied to the chair and locked in the room for hours, had little fight left in him and said not a word, as if he thought what awaited him outside would be better than the dark solitude of the room. Samael almost felt sorry for him. Almost. After placing the man in the chair in front of Damon, Samael returned to the hidden room and grabbed the vial from the fridge. He held it up to the light, swishing it slightly as the men had told him to do. Then he grabbed a syringe as well before returning. "How long will it take?" Damon asked as he watched Samael fill the vial. "The scientists were unsure of a specific timeline, but they believe between 12 and 24 hours for the virus to take hold. However, he will be contagious long before he begins showing symptoms, which will facilitate the spread of the disease." Damon rubbed his hands together. "That will be perfect. And he won't remember this?" Samael shook his head. "No. The scientists assured me that he will have no memory of today at all." "Wonderful. Proceed." Samael stuck the syringe into the vial and then injected the liquid into the man's arm. A slight twitch and a grimace was all the man could muster, but that was understandable considering the ordeal he had been through. "Don't worry. For you at least, this will all be over soon." When the syringe was empty, Samael summoned an attendant to return the man to his work. The attendant would then be killed, but it was a small price to pay to make sure nothing could be traced back to either himself or, more importantly, Damon. When the man and the attendant were gone, Damon returned to his throne. A look of pure malicious delight twisted his features. "And now we wait. Let the fun begin." Candace took a deep breath to calm her nerves as she approached the building. After poring through her Bible for the last several weeks, she'd realized 3 things. First, there was still a lot of it that she didn't understand, and she needed to talk to someone who could help her understand it. Second, she had to discover the truth. Was the rapture really the cause for Phil's disappearance? And if it was, that led to question number 3. What was coming next? She remembered Phil talking about the book of Revelation and what it said about end times, but she hadn't been listening at the time. Not really listening, anyway. Like with most things, she'd nodded and acted as if she understood, while her mind had been a million miles away. But she was listening now, and that had led her to her computer and to a website named Truth Seekers. At first, she'd just poked around the site, reading the belief statement and watching the videos that were uploaded each Sunday. After all, she couldn't be caught talking about the rapture in her line of work. It was not considered science, and the people who had dared to speak out about the rapture had been decimated on social media as crazies, loons. Most would probably never get a job again. However, even knowing that, the feeling that Candace needed to see this place in person, connect with these people, would not leave her and seemed to grow heavier by the day. So, here she was. The parking lot wasn't even half full, and Candace wondered briefly if it had been before the disappearances. By the size of the building, she thought it must have. A large man stood at the door, the kind of man who looked more like he belonged at the door of a nightclub as a bouncer than at the entrance of a church as a greeter. But the smile he flashed as Candace approached softened his image. "Welcome to Mountain Home. I'm Nathan." He held out a single sheet of paper to her. Candace took the paper and scanned it. It appeared to be a short order of worship, a few songs, prayer, message, and some links for connections. "Thank you. I'm Candace, but I haven't been in a church in a long time." Nathan's smile widened, and he nodded sagely. "Don't worry, we're all pretty new to the word here." Candace wasn't quite sure what he meant by that, but she returned his smile and entered the building. The immediate vicinity was obviously a foyer, as she could see into the sanctuary a few feet ahead of her, and the paths to either side appeared to be hallways to other rooms. "Hi, you look new," a woman to her right said. Candace turned to see a young, edgy woman with dark hair smiling at her. Yeah, first time, but I've been following the website for a few weeks." The woman's eyes lit up. "I'm so glad. I'm Raven, and I'm in charge of the website, and it's always nice to hear that it's actually doing what it was created to do." "And what was it created to do?" Candace asked. "Unite those who seek the truth. The world is going to get crazier, but we're trying to help as many people as we can." "What do you mean, crazier?" Candace asked. She should be unnerved, or at least skeptical of this woman and this conversation, but all Candace felt was peace. Raven cocked her head as if studying Candace. "I'm guessing you're here because you lost someone in the disappearances." "Didn't we all?" Candace asked with a slight chuff. She certainly didn't know anyone who had been spared. Not everyone had lost a spouse or a close family member as she had, but everyone seemed to know someone who was missing. "We did. The difference is that we know what really happened, and if you're here, my guess is you suspect the truth as well." "The rapture?" Candace asked, even though the words felt taboo on her lips. Raven issued a soft smile and nodded. "And if you're familiar with the rapture, then surely you know what comes next." She lifted her brows as if asking that silent question. Candace thought back over what she'd been reading. She didn't understand most of it, which was why she was here, but she knew enough to know what came next. "The tribulation." "That's right," Raven said. "We don't know exactly what it will look like or how it will come, but we meet every Sunday to discuss ideas and new ways to reach people like yourself. There is a war coming, and we are trying to be prepared." "A war?" Candace thought. How could they possibly face a war? And how could it be harder than what they'd gone through the last few months? Candace wondered if there was more to her showing up here than mild curiosity. But she'd come this far. She might as well hear them out.